Hey guys, welcome to the ARZEON channel. Today I got the RG503 in front of me on the dissection table because I've been waiting and putting this off for a while now because I wanted to get a whole opinion on the RG503 and I didn't want to shoot it out of the sky already when I know that it's going to get a lot better in the future. So I was waiting for the custom firmwares to come out and not complain about it in the start of its life cycle. So it's not a disappointment, as some people may say. This device has an OLED panel and has a very nice resolution like the PS Vita, because it's a very similar OLED panel as the one in the PS Vita made by Samsung. It doesn't get very bright, but it's very vibrant and very beautiful. Let me show you on the dissection table in front of us. This device, even though the camera of course does not do it justice, it really looks, the colors pop, and it's very beautiful to behold. Now, a lot of people had issues with the first release, the batches that came out at the start, with the buttons scraping against the shell of the device. I have the PCB iteration 2.1. Yeah, and the buttons absolutely don't scrape against the shell at all. So I even tried to swap buttons and see if that made the feeling of the device different, but it didn't really, because the buttons were good enough. I have some pictures of me having different button types in there. Over here you can see that, but it was not needed at all, so don't worry about that. If you order one right now from the link in the description down below, then you will get the latest iteration that they send out. The original operating system is not something you can just discard yet, because these custom firmwares are still in the testing phase, and moonlight streaming, in my experience with these custom firmwares, are not as good as in the original operating system. While I am talking about these specs, I think it's good that I run the clip of the streaming on the background, so you can see that the latency is not an issue. There is a revamp happening, or that happened, in the specs as well. It has a Rockchip RK3566 quad-core CPU that clocks up until 1.8 gigahertz, which is nice because the prior iterations, the RG351 family, had an RK3366 quad-core chipset, which was not, was kind of subpar when it comes to N64 emulation and Dreamcast. And PSP was also all right, but not in the more modern games like God of War and Tekken 6. Or the more hefty games. In this device, Tekken 6 and God of War also doesn't run that well. It kind of runs in slow motion, I would say, and I tried turning on frame skipping, but it did not help the situation at all. Nintendo 64 runs really well, and as I say, the buttons and the device itself really feels great, because the device has a shape, an oval shape on both sides, kind of like an egg, if you look at the sides only where you're gripping it. It really feels good in the hands, and also the speakers are very nice. That's very nice. Only one of the issues that this device has is the fact that it has a 1 GB DDR4 RAM in there. If we wanted to port Android over to this device, then it's kind of difficult with 1 GB of RAM to work with that. They probably will be able to get it done, but 1 GB RAM, nobody likes that. I'm sorry to say that, but it really is bad. You should have at least 2 GB of RAM for Android to be able to run everything satisfactory. Now, for the Linux operating systems such as Batocera, EmuELEC, and Ubuntu-based custom firmwares, this is still an good enough amount of RAM, but for Android it definitely isn't. The display, as you can see, is a very beautiful, vibrant 4.95-inch OLED display at the resolution of 960 by 544. The Wi-Fi on this device is a dual band 802.11 ABGN dual band Wi-Fi, and it can do Wi-Fi 5 as well. So it has It has 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz capabilities. The Bluetooth is 4.2 because Bluetooth is important in this device because you can connect external controllers to it if you wanted to. And also connect it to HDMI because it has an HDMI mini port and you can connect it to any display and then use it as a gaming box or emulation box. One thing that I find disappointing, let's switch over to the camera, is it feels hollow at first when you don't modify it. It feels very hollow, and when you knock it a little bit, you can tell that it has not much going on inside of it, even though the PCB is a very beautiful PCB, well manufactured, and the plastic is very good quality as well. But the battery is just small and there's a lot of unused space in this device, and I kind of dislike that. You had the opportunity to put a 6,000 milliampere battery in there, which is what I did in my own time, and I connected a JST connector to that battery that is very similar to this one, or actually identical. And you could just put a 6,000 milliampere battery in there and it becomes hefty, premium, and beautiful. Technically does 80% more gameplay time. It already was 6 hours according to the web page, but now it increased even more. I couldn't test it out because it never ran out of battery life yet. Since I got it 2 weeks ago, I have been charging it every now and then, so it never really ran out of battery life and I couldn't really test it out yet. But now it feels hefty. It has a premium feel to it. The plastic feels great, in terms of the finish on it. The device has a lot going on about it in terms of I/O, so we're going to talk about that. As I said, the buttons and everything feels great. The analog sticks are Nintendo Switch analog sticks, but they're manufactured differently, so don't worry with ANBERNIC about Joy-Con drifting. It never happened in my case, and I have some of their devices for 2 years with Nintendo Switch analog sticks and nothing happened to them. I kind of changed the rubber caps of the buttons because, generally Nintendo Switch analog sticks are kind of slippery after you sweat on your hands a little bit. So I changed that for my own ease of use. The shoulder buttons, some people are scared of it because they're adjacent to each other or next to each other, but the trigger buttons are elevated, so it's easy to press these the shoulder buttons with the middle of your fingers, index fingers, and the elevated trigger buttons with the tip of your fingers, so there's no issue going on over here. That's about the controls. On the bottom we have a function button over here and a reset button. The reset button is for a hard reset, in terms of just when it gets stuck, you want to reset it, just reset it. And probably it will not corrupt your SD card, but there is a possibility to corrupt your SD card. So I would keep some backups handy of your operating system and your save files at certain times. We have a function button over here to press and then use other hotkeys to kind of control the shortcuts on your device. We have an external SD card and an internal SD card. I would suggest that you swap your SD cards to premium SD cards so that you have the longevity of that. On the top, we have an OTG port for your developer needs. You can just plug in keyboards and stuff like that, those peripherals, using an OTG dongle or a USB Type-C cable. We have a 3.5mm audio jack as well as a mini HDMI port that I talked about, and the USB port for charging. This here can charge with the rating of 1.5 milliamperes, or amperes, sorry, not milliamperes. Now these shoulder buttons, as you can see, are not stacked, but there was a possibility for them to make it stacked because, the grips on this device are kind of, rounded like that, and they protrude a little bit. So if it was stacked, it would have been nicer, but they lost that opportunity and went for the adjacent build anyways. So yeah. On this side, we have a recessed power button and also doubles as a sleep button. I'm not sure if it is just a display off button, but as you know, OLED panels get really black, so it is very useful to save battery life either way. This is the volume rocker. It's not analog, it's just digital, and it does the job, to be honest. It's not really anything that I'm hyped about. Now, this device here is around $140 to $150 depending on what timing you're buying it. And as of this video, that is the price range of this device. It's not crazy expensive, but it's not very cheap as well. For 1 GB RAM, this kind of more on the expensive side. But this device, for what it has already in store for it and what it currently is able to run, is really a great device in my opinion, and I really can't recommend it enough. So I kept my original firmware handy on this SD card. Also, I made a backup of it because Moonlight runs kind of better on the original operating system compared to what I have found on the current test versions of the custom firmwares. And you know, I swap to it when I do Moonlight streaming. Keep it handy, you know. Of course, you always have to do a safe shutdown with these operating system, which I'm going to show off to you later on. Is it necessary to use custom firmwares on this device? It will improve your experience in emulation 90%. So I would say yes, it's very important that you learn how to do that. We're going to release a video about how to do that very soon after this video is released. So stay tuned for that, like and subscribe and be part of the family to be able to stay up to date with the latest videos. So I hooked up my RG503 to my television and my capture card, sorry. And now it's feeding through it to the display. As you can see in front of you, everything is nice and clear, I hope. And I connected an 8-bit Do Pro controller, Pro 2 by the way. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the operating system because all of the operating systems almost are based on emulation station. So it's very customizable, very easy to use because there's not RetroPie. RetroPie is more for the, you know, enthusiast grade kind of people with their Raspberry Pis. But this one here is quite simple and powerful at the same time. You also have access to ports and you can install ports using PortMaster, which is something very similar to Amber ports, and GelOS add-ons also does that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go into depth over it for the people that are not you know, into that kind of stuff. But the operating system, how to, you know, you can go into display settings and turn the brightness on or off or lower or higher. But I would say the OLED display is not very bright. So try to put it to 100% and it will definitely look nice. You know, that's your personal preference anyways. The UI settings, you can change your themes easily, as you can see over here. Theme configuration can be done to change the list to detailed or to picture mode for the box arts. It can have either both or one or them selected, you know, with the title. So that's your own choice as well. It has a scraper if you're connected to the Wi-Fi, as you can see on the bottom over here. And also we can go to options and update our device. If you want that, you can do that. So the fixes and stuff like that and the bug fixes will all be rolled out via Wi-Fi updates for ArkOS at the very least. If you wanted to read your external SD card, the second SD card in it with your ROMs and stuff like that, you have to say switch to secondary SD card for ROMs. A lot of systems are available for this device on ArkOS. As you can see, a lot of systems are there. I put my own ROMs on there because the ROMs that came included with this device in the 64 GB SD card, which was not of a reputable brand, did not include any Mario games, so that's kind of weird. And I have a lot more games that I like and more customized ROM lists for myself on here, so that's something to know. You can change the emulator settings very easily as well. You can go to any system that you want that is on the emulation station screen and then change the emulator and the core depending on the standalone stuff. If you have standalone, cores are not really going to change. If you have RetroArch, then you can change the core to any of the available cores. And there are many and plenty. So there is no scaling on this part of the settings. You can go to RetroArch for that. For some reason, while using HDMI with ArkOS, since this is a test version, it does not go into everything. So not every emulator is working. For the other operating system, the original operating system, it works well. But I'll shut down the system and then we move on to the gameplay section of the video, and after that the verdict. Now, according to what I have seen, this device had kind of a rough start, and the ones who saved it are the developers. PSP emulation, Dreamcast emulation are not really up there yet. They are good, but not up there yet. It could get a lot better in the future, and I am sure that it will get better in the future. So if you're interested in this device, links are in the description down below. Please extend your thanks to the developers that are working day and night on their hobbies and making this device good and very nice to play around with. Hopefully I'll make a video soon next week about how to install an operating system like ArkOS on your RG503. And I hope you liked the video and subscribed. Be part of the family, stay cool, and I'll see you guys in the next video.